Hello children, today I am going to start with one of the conceptual problem of Ampere's circuital law. Already we are discussing the applications and the problems of Ampere's circuital law. So I am going to focus one such application, or I can say it's a concept based problem of Ampere's circuital law. So let us get into the question. What the question says: a straight, thick, long wire of uniform cross section of radius A is carrying a current I. Use Ampere's circuital law to obtain a relation showing the variation of magnetic field inside and outside the wire with distance r. What about the three cases? R less than A, R equal to A, or R greater than A of the field point from the center of its cross section. And also you are going to plot a graph showing the nature of this variation. So once again the question is a little typical one. A straight, thick, long wire of uniform cross section of radius A is carrying a steady current I. Use Ampere's circuital law to obtain a relation showing the variation of magnetic field inside and outside the wire with a distance r, r less than A, r equal to A, r greater than A of the field point from the center of its cross section. Plot a graph showing the nature of this variation. Now you can focus on the diagram. I think the diagram is very clear. You are able to see a wire. What about the current flowing through the wire is I? What about the radius of the wire is A? What about the radius of the wire is A? This means for an area pi A square, what about the current threading is I? To be very clear, what about the current threading through an area that is around the cross section of the wire, that will be pi A square. Now the question is, they are asking what about the magnetic field for the region 1. You can see on the figure there is a region marked as 1, so it is marked as OA. Similarly, one more region you are able to see, that is OB, marked as 2. So you are supposed to find what is the magnetic field for a region less than, say if A is the radius, if I am going to assume the location distance as r, so what about the magnetic field for a region r less than A? This means inside the marked region 1 from the center O. Number 2, r equal to A on the marked region, that is 1, and what about the third case? Outside the current carrying wire, that is marked as region 2. So now we can get into the question. What is supposed to be the observation distance? I am going to mark it as r. What about the observation distance? In each case I am going to mark it as r. So in my first case you can see the diagram marked as 1. The distance OA I am going to take it as r. The distance OA I am going to take it as r. So I think the diagram clearly says for the region OA, what about the current threading? It will be equal to the area for pi r square or pi A square. So once again the thing is little bit complicated. So what about the current I that flows through an area pi A square? If I am going to assume the entire cross section of the wire, what about the cross sectional area is pi A square? This means for a area pi A square a current I flows. For a area pi A square a current I flows. Now obviously the region you are able to see, it will be pi r square. If I am going to assume the region OA, what about the area through which the current will thread? It will be pi r square. Surely the value of current will vary. So that is the main thing that you should note in this question. A current I flows through an area pi A square. But my aim is to find what is magnetic field for the region 1 as marked in the figure. So obviously what about the current threading will be different. So what about the current threading I can assume? So for a region pi A square the current threading is I. So for a region pi r square, what about the current threading I can write? It will be I, say I dash is the current threading through the region, new current, I dash will be I by pi A square into what about the contribution? It will be pi r square. So once again I am going to make the explanation of this. This means for a region pi A square a current I threads. This means for a region pi r square, the contribution will be I by pi a square into pi r square, and this is the new current that flows through the region OA, Now I am going to use this in Ampere's circuital law. So what about Ampere's circuital law? So I can say it is closed loop B vector dot dl vector is equal to mu naught I dash. I am going to mark it as mu naught I dash. Now already we are doing it as B into the region marked as 2 pi r, so circumference is 2 pi r into mu naught. What about I dash? It is I by pi a square into pi r square. What are the things you are able to see? This pi cancels off, you can cancel 1 r. So what about the value for B is mu naught by 2 pi I r square r, it will be I r by a square. This is the expression for a region marked as 1. Now ultimately you are able to see how the magnetic field is depending on the distance. So what is the conclusion for this region? I am going to mark here B is directly proportional to R. B is directly proportional to R. So once again I am going to explain the question. What the question says, a current I flows through a wire of uniform cross section. What about the radius of the wire is A? This means for an area pi a square, a current I threads. They are asking magnetic field for two regions marked 1 and 2. So I am going to get the contribution of current for the region marked as OA. So what about the current threading through that part will be, what will be the contribution? It will be I, if I is the total current flowing through an area pi a square. So I want the contribution for pi r square. So it will be I by pi a square into pi r square. So obviously I am going to use this in Ampere's circuital law. You know B dot dl can be replaced by 2 pi r mu naught. I dash is substituted by I by pi a square into pi r square. On simplification I am going to get B is equal to mu naught by 2 pi I r by a square. This clearly says the magnetic field is directly proportional to the location distance. I am going to get into the second asked one. They are asking what about the magnetic field for a region R equal to A. What you still derived is R less than A. So it is very easy. I am going to put R equal to A in this equation. So what will be B is equal to mu naught by 4 pi I A square by I A, it will be R is I A by a square. This means in place of this r I am putting a. So we are able to see cancels off. So B is equal to mu naught by 4 pi I by a. This is the case for r equal to a. Now our third case, what about the magnetic field in the region marked by 2? You can see the diagram, it is marked 2. What about the magnetic field in the region 2? So I think the concept of current threading through the wire is very clear to you. For the first case, the current threads through an area pi r square only. So obviously I get the current I dash to be I by pi a square into pi r square. But in this case you are able to see, since the point is outside the wire, the current threading will be I only. So directly I can use Ampere's circuital law. So what is Ampere's circuital law is B vector dot dl vector is equal to mu naught I. You know dl is 2 pi r, so I can write B into 2 pi r is equal to mu naught I. So I want B, so B will be mu naught by 2 pi I by r. We are able to see B is equal to, this is the thing we already derived, B is equal to mu naught by 2 pi I by r. So what is the establishment between B and r? You are very able to see clearly, it is B is proportional to 1 by r. So once again I am going to explain the question. There is a current carrying wire, say a current I flows through a uniform cross section. What about the radius of the wire is A. So I am going to start for a region. I am going to assume a point, say A, OA is equal to R, where the magnetic field is to be determined. So I am going to start from Ampere's circuital law, B dot dl is equal to mu naught I. To be very clear, since the area of cross section is reduced, the current contribution will also be reduced. So what about the current threading will be for that part only. So how to get that current? So I am going to mark it as I dash. You know I is the total current threading through an area pi a square. That is my initial case. A current I threads through an area pi a square. but I want a contribution for pi r square only. So what about the new current I dash is equal to I by pi a square into pi r square. I am going to use this in Ampere's circuital law, and what about the magnetic field comes to be mu naught by 2 pi I r by a square. From this we are able to clearly establish B is directly proportional to R. This I am marking to plot a graph. Obviously it will be the second part of the question. Now what about my second case? For a region R equal to A, can focus on the diagram once again. R equal to A means on the surface of 1. This means B is equal to mu naught by 4 pi I, in place of R I am going to put A. We are able to see A neutralizes. B is equal to mu naught by 4 pi I by A. What about my third case? For a region marked 2, can focus on the figure. What about, they are asking the magnetic field for the region marked as 2, since it is outside the current carrying conductor. So what I said is, what about the current threading will be I only. So directly we are using the Ampere's circuital law. B dot dl is equal to mu naught I. dl can be replaced as 2 pi r. So B comes to be mu naught by 2 pi I by r. From this we are able to see B is inversely proportional to the location distance. Now once again I am going to get back into the second part of the question. What the second part of the question says, you are going to plot a graph showing, the nature of this variation. So once again you are going to draw a graph showing the nature of this variation. This means you are going to draw a graph between B and R. You are going to draw a graph between B and R. So what about the representations? I am going to assume, say O x axis, y axis. Here I am going to assume the distance. Here I am going to assume the magnetic field. Now what about the first case? You know, when R was less than A, we established B is directly proportional to R. Next, when R equal to A, I think the condition is very clear. When R is greater than A, you are able to see B is inversely proportional to R. So with this basics, let us plot the graph. So I am going to assume this is the location where R is equal to A. I am going to assume this is the point where R is equal to A. So till R equal to A, B is directly proportional to R. So what I can assume, there is a straight line graph. So I can assume a straight line graph. This is showing B is proportional to R. We are able to see when R is greater than A, what happens to the magnetic field? It starts decreasing. So I am going to mark an exponential variation. This represents B proportional 1 by R. So this is the graph showing the nature of variation of magnetic field from the center towards a location 1 and 2. So once again, this type of question is usually asked for 3 marks, and it is a commonly repeated question. With this I am going to get into the next topic of moving charges and magnetism. We are going to discuss force on a charge. Before getting into the behavior or motion of charge in a magnetic field, I am going to explore the behavior of motion of charge in an electric field. I am going to explore the motion of charge particle inside an electric field. Our aim is to assume a moving charge, say that enters a uniform electric field. What happens to that charge? That is the thing we are going to explore in this section. So to get this, I am going to assume a uniform electric field. I am going to assume a uniform electric field. Say it is O, y axis, say it is x axis. So I am going to assume a uniform electric field. I said how you are going to achieve a uniform electric field? By assuming 2 parallel plates. I am going to assume 2 parallel plates. Say one it is positive, another it is negative. This plate is negative. So you are able to see one plate is positive, another plate is negative. So what acts in between them is a uniform electric field. So you know always the electric field acts from positive to negative. So what about the direction of electric field? is along OY. What about the direction of electric field is along OY. Once again, I am going to consider a uniform electric field that is acting in the plane. I am going to assume a uniform electric field that is acting in the plane of the paper. And what about the direction? It acts along OY. It acts along OY. So if I am going to assume how this electric field is achieved, you know, between if I am going to apply a potential difference between the two plates, an electric field is set up between the two plates, and you know that equation I am going to start. What is the electric field between the plate is E can be written as V by D. V is the potential difference, D is the separation. This is a common equation that we used in the first chapter. Yes. Now let us assume that a charge, say a positive charge plus Q, enters at point O. A moving charge, obviously the charge is moving. Where it enters at point O, and it is travelling along OX axis. It is travelling along OX axis, that is perpendicular to the direction of electric field. Once again, I am going to assume a charge plus Q that is entering the electric field. How it enters? It enters along OX such that it is perpendicular to the electric field. Now you know, since it is a positive charge, surely it will be attracted towards the negative plate and it will be repelled by the positive plate. So whether I can assume the charge will travel in the straight line. So once again, when it enters the uniform electric field, whether the charge moves in the straight line, the answer is no. Obviously it will be deflected towards the negative plate. It will be deflected towards the negative plate. So once it enters, what about the path followed? I can mark like this. It will be bending like this. So till it reaches the edge, what happens? Once again it moves straight. Say A is the point till the electric field exists. When the electric field ceases, it once again moves in the straight line, say AB. So how this AB? AB looks like as if you have drawn a tangent at point A. How AB looks like? As if you have drawn a tangent at point A. So once again, when a charge enters the uniform electric field, it does not move in a straight path, rather it travels a curved path along OA. It travels a curved path along OA. Once it comes out of the electric field, it moves in the straight path. And how the straight path looks like? It looks like tangent. You are drawing a tangent at point A. This means, so I am going to assume, say this point is Q. During this, what happened? Obviously the charge particle travels a horizontal distance, say OQ. What about the horizontal distance travelled is OQ. I am going to mark it as X. Similarly, it travels a vertical distance AQ. It travels a vertical distance AQ, and I am going to mark it as Y. Once again, during this motion, the charge particle covers a horizontal distance, that is OQ is equal to X, and also it covers a vertical distance AQ is equal to Y. Now you are able to see very clearly what about the force acting on the charge particle is only along OY. Is the main thing. Once again, what about the force acting on the charge particle is only along OY. No force due to the electric field is acting along OX. Once again, the force acting on the charge particle is only along OY. What about the force acting? It acts only along OY, whereas no force acts on the charge particle along OX. This means how this distance OQ is covered with uniform velocity. Since there is no force, there will be no acceleration. So if I am going to assume motion along the horizontal, that distance is covered with uniform velocity. This is the main thing. Once again, what I am going to say, the force does not act on the particle along OX. It acts on the particle along OY only. This means the distance, if I am going to assume the distance OQ, I am going to assume the distance OQ, we marked it as X. What type of motion it is? Obviously, this is a motion covered with uniform velocity. Since there is no force, no acceleration, so this distance X is covered with uniform velocity. And what about the time taken for this? So I am going to have an expression. What about the time taken by the charge particle to travel the distance X? Will be, it is distance by velocity. So if X is the distance, V is the velocity, what I can write is T is equal to X by V. So once again, I'm going to say very quickly, if you are able to see, when the charge particle enters the electric field, it travels along OX. So how about the nature of OX? This distance is covered only with uniform velocity, since there is no force on the charge particle along OX. So what about the time taken by the charge particle to cover this distance will be T is equal to x by v, and I am going to mark it as equation number 2. Now let us focus on the axis OY. So you know the charge experiences a force along OY. So what about the force experienced by the charge along OY? I can write, it's a very small formula, F is equal to QE, that we have used number of times in first chapter. So once again, along OY, what about the force on the charge particle? F is equal to QE. Obviously, due to this force, what happens to the charge particle? It accelerates. What about the acceleration? From Newton's second law, A can be written as F by m. Mark it as 4. Put 3 in 4. You are able to see very clearly what about the acceleration comes to be QE by m. And I'm going to mark it as equation number 5. Now, let us calculate the distance covered by the charge particle along OY. Let us calculate what about the distance covered by the charge particle along OY. And I am going to use the basic equation of motion, that is S is equal to ut plus half at square. So I am going to modulate this. S becomes y ut plus half at square. Now for OY, we should know that the initial velocity of the particle is 0. The initial velocity is only for the horizontal distance. This means for vertical there will be no initial velocity. So u will be 0. So this term will be 0. So what is the left out? You are able to see y is equal to half at square. You can put the value of A and T. A already we calculated, it is Q E by m into what is T is x by v. T square they are saying it is x square by v square. So ultimately I got an equation y is equal to QE by 2mv square into x square. So I think you can clearly guess this type of equation represents the equation of a parabola. This type of equation represents the equation of a parabola. So what type of path a charged particle when enters an electric field experiences? It follows a parabolic path. That is our conclusion. So once again I am going to explain the entire content, since it is the most important one, because if this is not cleared, this means we are unable to get the content of the coming topics. So what is our aim? Our aim is to study the motion of a charged particle in an electric field, uniform electric field. So we started from assuming a uniform electric field that exists in the plane of the paper and it acts along OY. I am going to assume where the uniform electric field acts, it acts along OY. We are able to see how this field was established by assuming two parallel plates separated by a distance d. So what about the electric field setup will be E is equal to V by d, and you are able to see very clearly the direction is from positive to negative. For the reason I am marking the electric field along OY. Next, now let at any instant a charged particle plus q enters the uniform electric field at O. It enters the uniform electric field at O. So what will happen? The question is whether the charged particle will move in a straight line or it travels a curved path. So very surely the charge, since it is a positively charged particle, it will be attracted towards the negative plate. Obviously the path will not be straight, rather it follows a path OA. Now once again as it comes out of the electric field, once again it becomes a straight path. How this straight path looks like? As if you have drawn a tangent at point A. Now during this motion the charged particle covers a horizontal distance. I am going to mark the horizontal distance OQ is equal to x. In addition it covers a vertical distance AQ is equal to y. Now what about the force acting on the charged particle is only along OY. This is the most important thing. Where the force acts on the charged particle, it is acting along only OY, it does not act along OX. This means how the distance OQ is covered, it is covered with uniform velocity. Since there is no force for OX, So what about the total distance covered? Surely the distance has to be covered. So how it is covered? By uniform velocity, since there is no force, no acceleration. So we calculated the time taken by the particle to travel from O to Q. We mark it as t, and t comes to be x by v. It's a very basic formula for time. Time is distance by speed. Distance is x. I am assuming the speed to be v. Next, we get into the concept along OY. Along OY, I said obviously the force acts on the charged particle along OY only. So what is the force on the charge? Already we studied F is equal to QE. This force causes an acceleration, that is A is equal to F by m. By putting, I am going to get A is equal to QE by m. Now what about the displacement of the particle along y axis? I am going to get from the equation y equal to ut plus of at square. Since the initial velocity during vertical motion is 0, I am assuming ut is 0. So what is the value left is half at square. Put back the value of a and t, already you derived. I am going to get into the basic format of a parabolic equation, that is y is equal to QE by 2 mv square into x square. So this equation represents the equation of a parabola. So what is the conclusion? When a charged particle enters a uniform electric field, it follows a parabolic path. I am going to get into the main topic of our chapter, force on a charge moving in a magnetic field. What happens when a charge moves in a magnetic field? Let us explore. Ultimately, the charge will experience a force. So how to start? So I am going to assume a coordinate frame. So O, say y, and it is z. I am going to mark this as x axis. Let a charge plus q is moving in a magnetic field. I am assuming a charge is moving in a magnetic field. What about the magnetic field? The magnetic field, say it acts along z axis. The magnetic field, a uniform magnetic field acts along z axis. Let a charge that was kept at the origin moves with a velocity v vector that makes an angle theta with the magnetic field. I am going to assume where the charge moves. The charge is moving in the yz plane. The charge is moving in the yz plane with a velocity v vector. That velocity vector makes an angle theta with the direction of magnetic field. So once again, I am going to explore the situation. I assumed a charge is moving in a magnetic field, in a uniform magnetic field. So what about the consideration? I considered a uniform magnetic field that acts along z axis. Next, I considered a charge plus q that is moving in the yz plane, making an angle theta with the direction of magnetic field. You are able to see very clearly in the diagram. Then under this situation, the charge will experience a force on the third axis, that is x axis. So it experiences a force along x axis. So let us explore what are the factors on which this force depends. So once again, this means if a charge is moving in a magnetic field, it experiences a force. If a charge is moving in a magnetic field, it experiences a force, not in all situations, but it's a generalized condition. So what about the magnitude of the force? The magnitude of the force, it depends on the strength of magnetic field. First, it depends on the strength of magnetic field. Next, it depends on the magnitude of charge. It depends on the component of velocity perpendicular to magnetic field. So what I write is v sine theta. So you are able to see, if I am going to resolve, this component will be v sine theta. So this component is perpendicular to the magnetic field. So which component of velocity shows a dependence for force is the component that is perpendicular to the magnetic field. I think you can club all the three terms. What I am going to get is F is proportional to BQV sine theta. Remove the proportionality and putting a constant, proportionality constant, it will be KBQV sine theta. If I am going to speak for SI, in SI the value of K is found to be 1. In SI the value of K is found to be 1. So what I am going to get is F is equal to BQV sine theta. This is the magnitude form of the force experienced by the charge in the magnetic field, and we are going to give a term for this force. It is called magnetic Lorentz force. What is the term I am going to give? This is a magnetic Lorentz force. Yes. So what about the vector form? We can speak in vector. If I am going to represent this force in vector, you know q is a scalar. Q is a scalar. Obviously sin theta is the output of cross product. It comes to be v cross b. Once again, it's a sensitive part. You know how to get the direction of vector quantities. You use the right hand rule, right hand thumb rule. So how will be the direction of f if I am going to rotate the screw from v to b? To be very clear, you are going to rotate the screw from V to B, and the direction of advancement of the screw will be along F. So please don't interchange whether it can be written as B cross B. The answer is, you know, cross product does not obey commutative law. So obviously this is the vector form of magnetic Lorentz force. So once again, having a very quick recap, I am going to assume a charge plus q moving with a velocity v, making an angle theta with the direction of uniform magnetic field. Under this situation, the charge experiences a force. What about the magnitude of the force? F is equal to BQV sin theta. In vector form, F vector is equal to Q V cross B. You should know the sense of rotation is from V to B and not from B to V. For that, it is written V cross B. So with this, I am going to end my session. Take care of yourself.